You're watching a production of South Dakota Public Broadcasting.
We are born with a natural curiosity, and science can help us engage with our environment. For example, physics helps define object properties and how they react. Some high school students are applying their classroom lessons to accomplish a seemingly simple task.
Go, go, go.
The weight isn't pulling down.
Give one more tap on your table.
Biologists are striving to learn about the wildlife that populates our state. Technology can also be a tool for exploration and entertainment. We'll check in with a flight club that's introducing students to drones.
Most of them have never actually flown a drone before.
And when working to understand all that is, we learn to imagine what could be. Medicine is at the forefront of this South Dakota operation. It's all about science and nature in this episode of Dakota Life.
A Rube Goldberg is a complicated way to do a simple task. So today we are presenting our Rube Goldberg projects to spill cereal into a cup.
Rube Goldberg is an actual person, and he was actually a cartoonist, and he thought it was funny he would find a complicated way to do a simple task. And it turned into using physics and sort of like a chain reaction in order to achieve a simple task. And every year they have a new simple task that we actually follow the National Rube Goldberg Project.
You know, we set a certain number of simple machines and steps that they have to do. We have a pre-drawing that they have to do, so we know that they're kind of planning what it is that we're doing, and then we just have another list of stuff that they have to accomplish. We throw a secret ingredient that we reveal about halfway through the project to see if they can, tweak and incorporate, just kind of give them another problem to see if they can throw in. And some of them get lucky and they've already had that in their machine. They already thought of it earlier. Along with, we try to see if they could throw a chemistry concept in there as well, something from our first semester when we really work on chemistry. And then they wrap it all up and we have our Rube Goldberg Day.
It doesn't always have to be super complicated in order for it to be successful. They can follow the criteria, they can have all the steps that are required, they can have all the simple machines that we ask them to have, and it doesn't necessarily need to be super elaborate. We're looking for the use of materials, how did they use them, and then of course, did they reach their end goal? And did they apply all of their physics knowledge to reaching that goal successfully the first time?
There were certain aspects that I was looking forward to. But what really made me excited was just the fact that we got to put to use the skills we learned in the last few chapters of science and actually see how it works for ourselves. When I pull this, the pin, the weight will drop on the fork will tip up this ramp, so the car will fall down, the car will hit here, hit this car, the car will roll down, hit this string, pull this and let the weight drop, and the cup will fall and drop cereal.
Okay, let's try it.
I was kind of surprised, there were certain parts that were really fun, but I was surprised how much was kind of stressful about it. There were some things that we had to tweak and tweak again, and I was just anxious that something would go wrong and those tweaks would come undone or something.
Some of the coolest projects that I've seen are freestanding that require a lot of setup. You know, you look at some of them, you're like, I don't know if this is going to work, and then all of a sudden there's success and it happens the first time, and those are kind of the ones that amaze you, and you see them, you know, tweaking and moving things, because a lot of these projects, I mean, a centimeter off here or there could ultimately spell disaster.
One thing I can honestly say is every year we're blown away by the creativity, the things that they can come up with, because we give them the end goal, we show them ideas, we talk about things that you can use. You don't have to necessarily buy anything, but every year we get some really, really amazing projects.
So we're gonna pull this pencil, and there is a cue ball inside of our mug, which is going to roll down this ramp and hit this. And there's like a tension built up here, so when this is released, then this weight pulls down this pulley with the rope, and the cereal pours over. And down here is a lever, another lever, which lifts up, and this is our wheel and axle right here, and this pours over and the milk pours in.
Let's see it.
Set it back up.
And this seems to happen every year, is they have it and it works, and then they decide they're going to paint it, and with the use of the paint, it just, you know, paint gets sticky, creates a little bit more thickness, and so things don't always slide and move the way that they did before the painting. And so, you know, they come here and they're like, this worked every time before, and now since they painted it, it just didn't quite work.
It's just the force does not want it to. I mean, it's more spray paint.
Honestly, it could be the spring.
The majority of our kids have put a lot of work into this project. To see it fail the first time, they get upset about it. But we always want them to know that, but look at all of the work that you've already done. Look at what you put into it. You had this idea, you came up with it, you actually were able to present your idea to us. We see more kids learn a lot from this project, just not the science skills, but just real world skills.
Once upon a time, an army of pint-sized predators with Hamburglar masks hunted prairie dogs across the plains. As humans annihilated their favorite food source, their numbers declined until they were thought to be extinct. Then a fortuitous find and diligent work by wildlife biologists gave them another chance. Captive-bred black-footed ferrets were reintroduced in select locations, including the Badlands and Buffalo Gap National Grassland. At first they thrived, then the sylvatic plague brought them back to the brink of extinction. But wildlife biologists like Travis Lavery haven't given up on the black-footed ferret. SDPB spent a couple nights with Lavery as he tracked, inoculated, and counted the ferret population of the Badlands Kanata Basin.
Black-footed ferrets once occurred across 12 U.S. states and a portion of Mexico and Canada. So picture a swath of prairie from Saskatchewan all the way down to northern Mexico, and from Kansas all the way over to Utah. And when you look at the historic range of black-footed ferrets, it overlaps exactly with black-tailed, white-tailed, and Gunnison's prairie dogs. At one time, there were huge colonies of prairie dogs here in the west. Tens of thousands of acres. There was a report of a prairie dog colony in Texas around the turn of the century that was 250 miles long by 100 miles wide. There is nothing anywhere even close to that anymore in North America.
The vast prairie dog colonies that once dotted the plains are hard to imagine today. Habitat loss and poisoning has reduced their range by as much as 95%. Ferret numbers declined in parallel with their exclusive prey, and by the 1960s they were thought to be extinct. Then a few were found on a ranch in Meeteetse, Wyoming. Those survivors became the key to the reintroduction of their species in the American West.
Captive-born black-footed ferrets were released here over about a 6-year period from 1994 to about 2000. And the population took off very quickly, and it did very well here until 2008, when Sylvatic plague entered South Dakota into this area and started killing prairie dogs and black-footed ferrets. Plague is not native to North America. It's actually from Asia. It's the same disease that kills humans, just like Black Death, and it's a bacteria. So our animals here in North America did not evolve with this disease, which is why so many of them are susceptible to it. The U.S. Forest Service and the National Park Service undertook a massive effort to combat plague in this area through dusting of prairie dog burrows. So putting an insecticide dust down into prairie dog burrows to kill fleas which transmit plague. In the meantime, I used a vaccine that the U.S. Army developed for humans on black-footed ferrets and started capturing up black-footed ferrets to inject them with this plague vaccine. And that two-pronged effort of dusting and vaccination of ferrets is what saved this population from going extinct. I use a spotlight to scan across the prairie looking for eye shine of animals, and specifically looking for the green eye shine of a black-footed ferret. It's very similar to a deer in the headlights. I started working here in 1995 for Badlands National Park and worked for the park and for the Forest Service, and eventually started a nonprofit organization to work with black-footed ferrets here. My heart is very much with these animals and this piece of land here in South Dakota. There's certainly been ups and downs in black-footed ferret recovery, and when plague hit here in 2008, that was certainly a very down point for me personally, but I had optimism that I knew it can work. I saw it work. I saw that we can have large prairie dog colonies and lots of black-footed ferrets here. So I knew that if we just push through and use our tools to manage this disease, that we can get back there again. Recovering endangered species like the black-footed ferret isn't just a flick of the switch. This is a long-term process, and it takes a commitment amongst organizations and agencies and individuals to say that we're in this for the long haul.
beautiful scenic views like these are all over South Dakota. Until a few years ago, these would have taken a whole camera crew as well as a small plane or helicopter. Now these shots can be captured with one of these. With one person at the controls. This is the Roosevelt High School Flight Club in Sioux Falls. They come to events like these to let kids and adults learn about drones.
It came to me in the form of a birthday gift. My wife gave me a small drone, and I always wanted to fly like an RC helicopter when I was little. And she got me this little quadcopter. It was, it was only about this big, and it flew like a dream for about a week, and then I crashed it. And since then, it just rolled around on the floor crazily and never went into the air again. So I was like, well, let's get a better one. So I got a better one, and I got better at it. I was like, how cool would this be to have this in the classroom? And I looked at some possible funding options, and that's where I first got just enough to get 3 of each, 3 mini drones, and then 3 programmable AR drones, which is a little bit bigger with the foam guards around it, and started using them in class, sharing with students how you can code these drones, what the industry would be like, and some students were like, well, is this a club or something like that? Do you have a club with this? And I was like, that's a good idea. And the student club, RHS Flight Club, came to be. And it's just kind of taken off since then, and people have been hearing about it, inviting us to events like these, and it's just been a lot of fun.
It's just really fun to fly drones. I like sharing the same interests with other people. It's really nice, and to share the information. It's nice to know that people have the same interests in you, and it's just fun to fly drones. So. In the future, we're thinking about getting racing drones and getting more professional style drones, and maybe build our own drones sometime in the future. Right now we just got the bare bones, but we're gonna hopefully in the future invest our money into some racing or some freestyle drones or other stuff, so that'll be fun. Definitely going to think about maybe it could be a job, make money off of it, or it could still be just fun.
If Kelvin chooses, he won't have to look very far for careers using drones. Universities and technical schools are already offering courses on drones as the technology is used in more and more industries.
So drones in precision agriculture, it's the, newest tool that is available right now. So drones to the agriculture industry, they're helping provide another layer of information we can use in management decisions. Because in the past, the only way to get a top-down view of a field was to use satellite imagery or actually fly it with a plane. But now we have drones, we're able to get that image at a lot cheaper price because they're just using battery power, and actually at a lot higher resolution. Because with drones, we're actually able to tell the actual health of individual plants throughout a field. So with the variable rate application map, we're only applying to the certain parts of the field that need it. It's not an area that's going to go away, especially as technology gets better and better, becomes more user-friendly. And actually, one of the newer things in drones in agriculture is actually crop spraying. It's not quite there yet in the United States because we have a few different regulations than other countries, but actually China last year sprayed over 4.5 million acres using drones. So it is I think that's the way you'll see in the future, but technology is getting there, but drones are kind of pretty much in their first generation, and as technology increases, they're going to become more user-friendly, and the capabilities of them will just increase that way too.
Drones are being used by South Dakotans all over the state, and we are sure to see more ways to use them for work and play in the future.
South Dakota is the site for cutting-edge work in the biomedical field. SAB Biotherapeutics is one company working to make available antibody treatments on a mass scale. Eddie Sullivan is SAB's co-founder, president, and CEO, and shares the groundbreaking work taking place at the farm, PHARM, near Canton, and the laboratory in Sioux Falls.
So let's just start at the beginning. I mean, this has been in the works
about 20 years.
20 years. Yeah.
And the founders of this project started at the University of Massachusetts, Amherst, in 1998. And looking out into the world, saw that there was a gap in immunotherapies. Immunotherapies are therapies to treat disease where we use these very unique proteins in our immune system called antibodies. Antibodies are produced by special cells in our bodies, and they are there specifically to attack disease. And we make a specific antibody protein to each different foreign disease organism that comes into our body. And that could include anything from a virus to a bacteria and even cancer.
Okay, so simple in concept, right? Simple in the idea, but then quite a journey to get to a product that actually is usable.
Certainly, and the first part of it, and really the motivation behind the project, was to be able to produce antibodies outside of human donors. The antibody therapeutic market worldwide is something like $100 billion a year, but it is dominated by what we call monoclonal antibodies. These antibodies are single antibody proteins that are used to treat specific diseases like rheumatoid arthritis or cancer or other kinds of diseases. But our body's natural response is a polyclonal, meaning multiple different kinds of antibodies. And so the idea behind our project was to be able to produce fully human antibody proteins, polyclonal, the natural way that our bodies fight disease, but do it outside of human donors. And so that's really where everything began, was selecting this platform technology to produce these human antibodies. And that's where what we call transchromosomal bovine came into place. And then give those to people that are sick to simply boost the natural response that their bodies are already doing against that particular disease. The science behind it was quite complex, as you can imagine, because what we essentially had to do was to take cell lines, in this case from cattle, turn off the antibody genes in those cell lines, and replace them with what we call a human artificial chromosome that contained the human antibody genes. And so that piece of DNA does not actually integrate itself into the cow's chromosomes. It simply sits out there as its own thing, and in the cells that produce antibody, rather than producing the cow version of antibodies, these cells now produce the human version. And so that required a tremendous amount of molecular genetics and also producing the animals from those genetically engineered cells.
And you are in the developing of products stage in this company.
That's exactly right. After you have the technology to produce the antibodies, the next stage, of course, was to produce specific targeted antibodies to specific diseases. So some of those targets that we're currently working on include seasonal influenza, type 1 diabetes, and oncology targets. But then you have to go into that regulatory component of actually showing that this product is safe. And we were able to do that in 2016 and actually completed some of those initial clinical trials with our products with very good results.
What made you pick South Dakota? Why are you here?
First of all, South Dakota is a perfect location to raise these animals. They're comfortable here. the climate and temperatures are very conducive to raising cattle. We are obviously an agricultural state, but on top of it, we have a great medical community where we can work with some of the medical centers around the state of South Dakota, some that have experience in conducting clinical trials, for instance. And so along with the great business climate I think that we have in South Dakota, we also have a great talent pool of people that are looking for jobs exactly like what we offer in science and technology.
And agriculture.
And agriculture, that's exactly right.
Okay, and how do you see your role continuing with the company and moving forward?
Well, certainly we continue to develop the company as we move closer and closer to being able to partner with others and that sort of thing. Our company is along a path much like other biotech companies where we are raising investments and developing therapeutics and commercializing them, and that's really the goals and aspirations that we have as we continue to develop the products and the company together.
Okay.
Join us online at watch.sdpb.org to explore additional Dakota Life stories. And while you're there, submit your ideas for future episodes.